Hey fam. Isaiah here. Yours truly Spoiler King. Today we are going to speak about latest movie, Elvis, starring Austin Butler, Olivia de Jonge and Tom Hanks. Before you get into the movie, you guys know the drill. If you enjoy our vids, if you want to see more in future, leave a like and comments below. And also subscribing and hitting that bell is a very real way directly supporting the channel, and it's completely free. And finally, this video will contain movie spoilers. You have been warned. Okay, so let's get into it.
Get ready to experience a world beyond your imagination. The film opens. In 1997, Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's former manager, was on his deathbed having suffered a stroke. Remember him as a liar, a cheat, and a con man. Parker himself begins to narrate. He goes back and remembers how he met the king of rock and roll. He acknowledges that while many will paint him as the villain, he considers himself the man who gave the world the king of rock and roll. Elvis Aaron Presley jumped back to Las Vegas in the 1970s at the International Hotel. Elvis is barely able to stand with his entourage, dunking his head into ice-cold water to get him on his feet. Parker shows up and declares that the most important thing is that Elvis be able to get up on that stage. Despite the chaos, Elvis manages to get up and perform an American trilogy to an amazed crowd. While Parker continues his tale, he is seen walking alone through an empty casino. The same news outlets reporting Parker's demise also blame him for what happened to Elvis, but he firmly argues against those claims. Parker begins his tale in the mid-1950s, where he, an undocumented Dutch immigrant, worked at a carnival for Hank Snow. Hank's son, Jimmy Rogers, shows up with a record that has a country kind of sound to it. While the others in the crowd seem to like the tune, Hank and Parker don't think the music is marketable. Since it sounds like music played by African American folks, Jimmy informs them that the song is being sung by a white man, and Parker suddenly becomes interested in Parker's account. He first encountered Elvis at a musical performance at one of Hank's shows for a radio performance where the young man was nervous about getting on stage. He was encouraged by his mother, Gladys, to get up there, saying that someone named Jesse is watching them. Parker explains in narration that Jesse was Elvis's twin brother who died in childbirth through his account. It has been shown that Elvis's father Vernon was incarcerated due to his shady dealings, and Elvis would get lost in comics and pretend he would do what he could to free his father. His favorite hero was Shazam. As a kid, he befriended black children and found himself enchanted by soulful black music. As an adult in the early 1950s, Elvis worked at Sun Records to make music and support his family. At the performance, everyone gets ready to watch Elvis go up and show what he's got. While he is initially mocked by the crowd, he immediately charms the ladies in the crowd with his voice and his gyrating hips. While the female crowd is amazed by Elvis, the older crowd is put off and considers him indecent. Elvis soon joins Hank's musical tour across the South, with Parker following him in an attempt to win him over. Elvis continues to draw hordes of female admirers, but Hank views him as being inappropriate for the crowd he wants to attract. At a carnival, Parker finds Elvis in a house of mirrors and talks to him on the Ferris wheel. He tells Elvis that Hank wants to get rid of him, but Parker assures Elvis he can take him to new heights. Elvis, driven by his desire to help his family, agrees to work with Parker. The two even convinced Gladys and Vernon to join, with Vernon being appointed to the management position of the newly founded Presley Enterprises. While Gladys is uncertain about Elvis venturing into a new career with music, he convinces her that he can make something of himself before making it big in music. Elvis works as a truck driver, but he is still amazed by black performers on Beale Street in Memphis like B.B. King and Big Mama Thornton, the latter who sings the song Hound Dog, which Elvis likes the sound of, and his employers at Sun Records also encourage Elvis to strike out on his own. Elvis's star begins to rise as his popularity takes off, and with Parker's help, he is able to move his parents to a mansion. Graceland Parker also develops Elvis merchandise, including pins that say, "I hate Elvis," because even hate can make them some money. However, despite his success, the sexual nature of Elvis's dance moves and the way that he captivates the female audience puts a concern on parents and elected officials who dub him Elvis. The Pell Elvis Senator James Eastland personally rallies against Elvis and Parker, demanding that he clean up his act or go to jail. Elvis is made to wear more appropriate clothing and his music is toned down, which disappoints his fans and angers Elvis for having to be held back. This also causes a strain between Elvis and Gladys, the latter who has fallen into alcoholism. He drives down to B Street and hangs out with BB and other black folks where they watch Little Richard perform. Elvis and BB talk outside, where BB says that there are too many people profiting off of Elvis to try and put him in jail for how he performs. So he encourages him to do whatever he wants to do. Elvis is driven to a concert where he is ordered to not do so much as wiggle a finger or he will be arrested. As Elvis gets on stage, he remembers BBS words and addresses the audience saying nobody is going to change him, and the crowd goes wild. He begins to perform Trouble and the ladies in the audience go crazy as he wiggles his hips. Parker is horrified and he orders security to pull Elvis off stage, where he is arrested in 1958. Elvis is soon threatened with going to jail for indecency, but he is given the option to serve overseas in Germany. Gladys fears for her son's safety and she eventually dies at her funeral. Reporters try to get statements from Elvis, but both he and Vernon are too heartbroken to face anybody, and Elvis is left sitting in his mother's closet sobbing against her clothes. Parker steps in and convinces him to step outside for the sake of Gladys, saying that everything she sacrificed for her son will be for nothing. By 1959, Elvis was serving in Germany, where he met Priscilla Wagner, daughter of an army pilot. Other people in the area like to catch a glimpse of Elvis, though he enjoys spending his private time with Priscilla as he begins to fall in love with her in the 1960s. Elvis makes his comeback to the United States by appearing as an actor in films, beginning with Love Me Tender. Parker notes that people only want to watch Elvis sing, so he is featured as a singer. In more films, Elvis and Priscilla get married and they have a daughter, Lisa Marie. Elvis later develops his own entourage, the Memphis Mafia, which includes Priscilla, his friend Jerry Schilling and several others. During his time on the road, Elvis learns about the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. While Parker tells him it has nothing to do with them, Elvis believes it has everything to do with them. Elvis is introduced to Steve Binder by Jerry, with Steve wanting to help Elvis out with his work. Parker books Elvis for a Christmas special on NBC, where the producers want him to do a clean show and sing. Instead, Elvis performs many of his biggest hits like Heartbreak Hotel and Jailhouse Rock. At some point during a break, Elvis and company learn about the assassination of Robert Kennedy, which also deeply unnerves Elvis. Parker breaks it up and orders Elvis to do a Christmas song since the producers won't pay him otherwise, and Parker will drop Elvis. The next night of the show, Elvis performs If I Can Dream as a protest song and it becomes another big hit. Parker then brings Elvis to Vegas at the International Hotel, where the owners want to have Elvis there as a headline performer. After scoring a huge payment for Elvis, Parker is then told that as long as Elvis performs at the International, Parker will have his debts wiped clean and have an endless line of credit. However, Elvis wants to start traveling and performing internationally, which Parker refuses to allow since he is undocumented, which was brought up when he was confronted by Eastland during his tenure at the hotel. Priscilla watches as Elvis kisses other women. Parker also orders tighter security due to Elvis getting death threats, as well as crazed fans trying to rush him on stage. Elvis attempts to cut ties with Parker only to be sued by him. Later on, Vernon tells Elvis that he owes over $8 million to the record label for his numerous expenses. Elvis angrily confronts Parker, but has no choice but to keep him on. The stress drives Elvis to a pill addiction and alcoholism, and he grows increasingly paranoid. During one of his shows, he publicly calls Parker out as someone who is keeping him caged up there, and he walks off stage after the curtain drops. Priscilla also ends up divorcing Elvis due to his addiction, as well as him not being there for Lisa Marie. By the mid-1970s, Elvis was nearly 40 and he had started gaining weight. His health is also in serious decline. He is on a runway with Priscilla and Lisa Marie before he has to leave them again. Priscilla asks him to go to a special clinic that she heard about, at least for the sake of Lisa Marie, but Elvis says he cannot. Priscilla tearfully leaves him for the last time before he boards his plane. In 1977, Elvis died at the age of 42 from a heart attack. Fans all around the world pay tribute to him, and a statement is given by President Jimmy Carter to memorialize him. Parker's final narration states that he doesn't think it was the pills or alcohol or even himself that killed Elvis, but rather it was the love that Elvis desired from his fans. He also notes that he still got to see Elvis perform one last time before his death. Elvis is shown up, appearing obese and worn out, but he still manages to belt out to an adoring crowd. Back in 1997, Parker took his final breath. The ending text states that Colonel Tom Parker's abuse of Elvis was made known in a series of lawsuits after his death. Although he tried to defend himself, Parker wound up spending his final years in disgrace, pouring what little remained of his fortune into Vegas slot machines. Meanwhile, Elvis Presley is still the highest-selling solo artist of all time, and his influence and legacy on music continues to this day, and the movie ends here.